My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content.
All right, guys, welcome to Property Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Kaminsky, filling in for Dave DeBow. And have you ever wondered how someone could accumulate 70 rentals in just 29 months? Well, today, my guest, Jessie Lang from Columbus, Ohio, is here to unravel the mystery behind her rapid success in real estate investing. Jessie, welcome to the show. Fantastic to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So one of the main things with long-term rentals is you want to start recycling capital. You want to get, a lot of people buy their first thing and maybe they buy a turnkey and then they're like kind of stuck. So the BRRRR method, walk us through what initially drew you to real estate investing and then how you ended up in the BRRRR method.
Yeah, absolutely. So the short version of kind of my story was I was an accidental landlord. I was house hacking before I even knew it was a term. 10 years ago, I bought a crappy little condo and I had some roommates because my big girl job did not barely cover the mortgage. I should not have gotten that mortgage from a bank, but I'm really glad I did. So in order to cover it, I had some roommates. And so I kind of started getting the taste of real estate like 10 years ago, but I never knew that it was a career path. I never knew this was an option for, financial freedom, anything like that. So it really wasn't until I moved to Columbus, Ohio, in 2017.
Right.
And started going to RIAs, started meeting people, started seeing that like, hey, real estate's a career. Like I said, I had a taste of people paying me rent through house hacking, through I owned 3 properties. I moved into each one and then rented out the ones that I moved out of, right? So I knew it was cool. And then it took really coming to RIAs, meeting normal people who were investors in order to kind of get the bug. And I mean, that's really the short version of how it was a slow burn to figure out real estate is my passion and what I wanted to do. And then from there, I was wholesaling. I got my real estate license. I was dabbling in Airbnb. I was doing a bunch, but it really wasn't like it wasn't the thing until it was 2021, January 2021. So only 3 years ago that I really figured out the BRRRR method. Like that was my key to scaling. And so I really like the BRRRR method for 2 main reasons. So first, the idea is that you get your initial capital back and you still have 25% equity left in your property, right? So, and then the second reason that I love it and I'm attracted to it is you have a nice new renovated asset with very little maintenance, especially, CapEx. You're going to have your day-to-day stuff, but for the most part, it's really low maintenance and we self-manage everything. So that's important.
So, well, and especially too, if you've got the plan to BRRRR it, you're probably doing things like hot water tanks, furnaces, panels, those things that like, oh, we have a great rental going, $5,000 later and a new furnace. So you got to, kind of get ahead of that. Are you finding that the market that you're in is really conducive to the BRRRR method? Because some markets, no matter what you do, you can't buy it low enough. You can't renovate it cheap enough to get your money out, your parking money, and in some cases, cash flow negative. So what is it about your market that really is kind of spawning these things? Like, are you having to leave some money or are you getting out most of what your guys are putting in to turn these things around?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So when I first started, the only thing I could buy was quote unquote the perfect BRRRR because I had to get my money back. I had to get a cash out. I didn't have capital to leave in a deal. 3 years and 70 doors later, that situation's changed a little bit. So, and our market has shifted as well. So I am comfortable with 15 to 20K left in deals if need be. That said, there are still, quote unquote, perfect BRRRR out there in Columbus. 2 combat the competition, which everyone, I mean, telling you, like, you know, I have students from across the nation. Everyone wants to invest in Central Ohio. So we're spreading out our radius a bit outside of, you know, I was really inside our outer belt, like that narrow. We're now expanding about an hour from Columbus Center. So, you know, moving out a little bit in order to recapture some of those perfect BRRRRs.
Yeah,
and
we're
slightly less competitive.
Yeah, and that seems to be the trend too, is like the metro, great,
Yeah.
competitive, but people, especially in the United States with the interstate, they'll drive,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, you can get pretty far in 20 minutes. So they'll go into a pocket community, you know, they'll be 20, 25 minutes out of the interstate from work, perfectly fine drive to work. So when you look at, you know, the key strategy that you use to employ really just to achieve that remarkable success in such a short time frame, do you think there's another strategy, or was, because a lot of times people go to BRRRR because they're looking for cash flow in some sense, but they're also looking for, because if you've tasted Airbnb and wholesaling and flipping, you realize that it's kind of like fast food. Like it's in, out, done, the wrapper's thrown out, and it's like you were never there. So
And you feel bad about it afterwards.
well, yeah, well, maybe it was their best flip of all time. You made 50 grand, but now you gotta, like, there's nothing but the money to show. So
Sure.
was the long-term hold kind of like a fatigue of those early strategies that you were in?
I don't know that it was a fatigue necessarily. There is the element of getting off the hamster wheel, right? You're not
Mhm.
always looking for the next influx of cash. That said, I do still wholesale a little bit and I flip a little bit. We keep the lights on. I earn money to leave in some deals, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But ultimately, like the benefits of real estate come from holding long term.
Mhm.
Tax advantages, appreciation, principal pay down. You don't get those things if you sell in 6
Nope.
months. So we're all about like, I'm going to hold as long as humanly possible, especially, you know, I have said since the day I drove into Columbus that Columbus economically, culturally is just
Mhm.
Austin, Texas 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I missed it in Austin. The most I ever had was 3 properties. I've now since sold all 3, but like, I mean, we did very well on those. And so I saw it from the moment I drove in with my little Prius filled with my stuff and my dog, and I moved here without ever even coming to visit. I drove in and was like, oh, like it's
I'll
basically
stay
just
here.
Austin. Yeah. Like, oh, I can do this.
So
That was 7 years ago.
it's kind of interesting when you said that. I got to thinking, I was like, are you even in real estate if you're not going long term?
I
Like,
mean, it's a job. At that point, it's just a job.
so managing 70 rentals, that's a challenge. A lot of people like cap out at 10. How do you handle the property management side and the tenants? Um, I'm sure there's always a horror story or two in there, but what have you
10.
learned to kind of, or 10 or
Yeah.
70? So
Yeah.
what have you learned to kind of help you stabilize the whole, it's time management.
Yeah. So expectations are key. I have tried to get ahead of every single issue that I've ever faced with a resident.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you learn it once and then you put something, we have a welcome letter that we send everyone and it's outside of their lease. It's not legally binding, anything like that, but it is expectations, how to do maintenance requests, it answers all their questions ahead of time, like how to switch utilities, all that. So first is setting expectations. Next is human capital. I couldn't absolutely not do this by myself. So I do
Mm-hmm.
have a full-time admin. She does all of our resident communication, maintenance scheduling, lease signing, leasing. I mean, she really does it all and she's in-house. So when I say self-manage, and this is what I teach in our community as well, when I say self-manage, I don't mean that I am the one doing everything. That would be very, very challenging. But I am the one building the processes and making any final decisions. So it's still my process. It's just implemented by someone on my team.
Yeah, a lot of time, when you get to that volume, people either they're trying to make a business out of management, they're taking on other people's doors, or they have no interest in the management side and they're just focused on getting more of their own doors and feeding the management company. So, um, how do you, how do you decide when a property is ready for the self-management? What are some best practices you found to, bring those properties onto your own portfolio?
As far as when we buy something?
Yeah, like at some point you're saying this thing's ready to be rented out,
Yeah.
or at some point you're saying, because you're balancing both your own assets and the management of your own assets, which is good because they're most intrinsically like, we want to make sure this thing is still rentable after this tenant. So screening, yeah, so let's talk about two things. So we talk a little bit about how you bring them in, but before that, how are you protecting, what are some things you've put in place to protect your assets, because you are trying to hold them 10, 20, 30
Yeah.
years end of life cycle.
Yep. So one core value is that no one is ever going to care about your asset like you do. So we're focused on the renovation, first on function and safety, and then on cosmetics. So I mean, we're building in where we're doing all three, but first and foremost is function and safety. If I can't get those with the budget I have available, then it's not a deal, right? So if I can get function, safety, then cosmetics, and the property is new mechanicals or, everything's functional, we look for a 10-year lifespan. So if I'm not going to have any CapEx for the next 10 years, I'm doing the renovation up front, I'm getting that money back. And then that gets the property itself ready. From there, we do significant screening. I mean, Cassie on my team, she's fantastic. She's a little detective and will figure out anything that we need to know about a resident. And, of course, you can never get every single one exactly right, but we have a pretty darn good track record with placing residents who care about our units and who pay on time.
So how do you ensure that, like, yes, there's the screening process, but caring about the units, how are you measuring that when people are coming in? Because I wish, I think a lot of people wish that their tenants cared about the unit as maybe half as much as you care about your own building. So
Right.
how do you find that X factor, which most tenants are just interested in a place to sleep, but also like care about the unit?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's tricky. I think we put out a really nice product, even if it's in a developing neighborhood, which, I buy a lot in transitioning neighborhoods and, we're in the affordable housing space. So our unit is often, I don't want to say the nicest, but it's always clean, always safe, mostly fully renovated because we're buying properties that need everything, right? I'm not just, oh, the carpet's fine. It's like, no, the carpet absolutely needs replaced. So it's attracting people who can afford top of market rent for that area. And it's attracting people who they see that we care. We're not providing a half-ass, I mean, can I say that? We're not providing a half-ass product, right? So we're setting the expectation from day one that we care about the unit and we expect you also care about the unit. We have in our welcome letter some cleanliness instructions. We have proactive 6-month inspections. Does it happen every 6 months on a dime? No, but it's there in case we think we need it.
So teaching others to invest in real estate is a significant success, specifically because, it's not easy carrying people into the idea and through. So what advice do you typically offer to beginners who are interested in following a similar path of, I want to
Yes.
get to 70 doors in 29 months?
So it is all about your community and who you surround yourself with, period, flat out. When I felt like I was making not felt like I was making everything up for those first 3 I owned in Austin. My parents are blue collar, my aunts, uncles. I knew absolutely not a single soul to believe that real estate was a career until I moved to Columbus and started coming to real estate meetups to see you're a regular person. I'm a regular person. Regular people can own real estate. That was like an absolute epiphany for me.
And a lot of real estate too. I know a guy out of there's a guy out of like the Ohio, he's in the Cleveland, and I think it's what's south there,
Cincinnati.
not as big, but in any case, in that core kind of column, something like 1,500 doors. And when you hear those stories, you're like, and they're just like me and you, they're like, oh, you could have 1,500 too. So I definitely know. So, you know, surrounding yourself with the right people.
100%.
And then, you know, what do you do to help your students get prepared to start doing real estate?
Yeah. Yeah. So we have the best way to connect, and I think Bryce will get to this, but we have a Facebook group where it's a free group to join. I go live every single Tuesday with trainings, tips, tricks. We go anything from mindset to mistakes to we just had prop stream on like earlier today. I mean, it is a wide array of what we teach. So if you're very, very new, I would start there and start, Property Profits, like all these online resources are great places to start. If you know that long-term rentals and the BRRRR method specifically are for you, we help people with we have a 90-day challenge to buy your first rental property. So I take you through week by week, different themes. You have homework, you have like literally, it's so prescriptive. Do this, 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 this. By the end of 90 days, if you do all the steps, you're going to own a rental property. So that would be like a fantastic way to get started. Obviously, there is a time commitment. Right? If you don't do the work, nothing's going to happen. That's with anything in life.
My mentor used to use that. I think it's maybe a Zig Ziglar thing. It's like people yell at the stove. They're like, "What? Give me heat!" And it's like, well, you got to put the logs in first. You know, it's an old analogy, right? You got to put the fuel in. You got to put the work in, or you're not going to get the heat. So, looking to the future, the BRRRR method is really challenged with the interest rate creep. How are you guys mitigating that challenge, and what are your thoughts on the current and future interest rate environment for because you're locking in, are you taking short positions right now and then renewing in 5, or what are you doing to kind of
so we're
mitigate this?
I'm right now getting 30-year fixed DSCRs, but the intent, we're in a market that's appreciating rapidly. So the equity position in 5 years is going to look very different.
Yeah.
So I have no intention of holding them for 30 years.
So you're an equity player instead of a cash flow player. So you're not too worried about whether it makes you $500 a month, as long as it's
you're definitely not making
maybe 100 or under.
Yeah.
Well, there's some markets, that you can buy houses cheaper and rent for more, but there's typically 2 patterns, right? Either people want the appreciation of the market, or they want a non-appreciating cash flow market. So it sounds like Columbus is an appreciation market.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, cool.
High competition driving up prices, which are affecting your all-in cash, and you're going to leave some money in the deal. We're underwriting at 200 a door and not hitting that a lot of times. Just to be honest, but I am here for the long term, and that's the key. Before I learned the BRRRR method, I was buying with 20% down. I call those my early mistakes. I have since sold some of those off, even in 4 years here in Columbus. We're walking in near 6 figures on a single property. So like cool, I'll take $100 a month.
Well, that's the thing too. It's like you add up $200 cash flow, 12 months. Let's say you have 2 months of vacancy, $2,000.
It's gone.
And then the market appreciation is way more than $2,000. Even if you're getting the average 3% a year, and it's $100,000 property. Now it's 103. Like
Yeah.
it's
Compounded.
appreciation always beats cash flow in a lot of cases. Not
And
all cases. Some people go and get it, but
well, even when rates were better, we were getting, 4 or 5%. I have still always believed that cash flow is the least sexy of all of the benefits. The fact that someone else is paying down your mortgage, I mean, and I think
and
that
holding it as it inflates too.
yeah, I think people overlook the fact that yes, they're paying your interest payment every month, but they're also paying your principal, right? Like you owe less every single month, and the longer you have it, the faster that's paid down again by someone else. So of all the benefits, cash flow is already the least sexy. It's even less sexy right now, but that's
Well,
not
you're also getting the leverage of the asset with the appreciation. A couple years down the road, you say, give me some of that tax-free money, and then maybe roll it into another unit of BRRRRs, and now you can scale a little bit faster. So if people want to connect with you, they want to find out more about the course, what you're doing, where can they find you? What should they do?
Yep. So it's our Facebook group. I am in there all the time. You can always get a hold of me. So it's unlocked. Learn to buy and manage long-term rentals. We'll have a link in the show notes. And any questions, introduce yourself. Would love to have you in the group.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So yeah, I mean, yeah, you better learn the BRRRR method before you get a whole lot of money stuck in a deal and maybe you get stalled out. So learn the BRRRR method, find the resources. If you're super new, like Jessie's saying, find the free thing, Bigger Pockets. And when you're ready, even if you're brand new, I'm sure Jessie's got some resources to send you in
tons.
the right direction. I really appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, you're welcome.
No problem. Until next time, guys, we'll catch you on the next episode.
Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.